How are you feeling? You got John Riggs here. So excited that the new Mortal Kombat movie's coming out soon. I was a fan of the first movie when it first came out. You know, it's funny, I never saw the second one. Didn't really need to, I suppose. But when I saw the trailer for this new one, it's coming out soon in theaters, HBO Max, here in about a week as of filming this. April 23rd, I believe is the date. It's gonna be awesome. I only saw the trailer once. I know I have friends who have saw it multiple times, and there's been new previews and new trailers, stuff like that. It's like, I just saw it the once. I'm hooked. I'm hype. I'm going to not be spoiled by anything until then, because I want to watch everything else, you know, for the first time outside of what I saw in the trailer. And you know, I was thinking about it because I'm an old school gamer, right? So I grew up in the day when we had arcade games going up to the evolution of what became Mortal Kombat. But a lot of people who are watching Mortal Kombat today, a lot of people who are watching this new movie that's coming out soon, you know, maybe they grew up with the Dreamcast version, or maybe they're playing the ones only on the PlayStation and the Xbox, and that's Mortal Kombat to them, like Mortal Kombat 10 or whatever. Like, that's to them what Mortal Kombat is, which, of course it is. But I was thinking more like what it was like for me when I first saw Mortal Kombat for the very first time. When I first saw it in the arcade, I heard rumblings about it at school, and I couldn't wait to see it for myself, and when I saw it, I was blown away about, you know, just like what it looked like and how violent it was. I mean, that was one of the big kickers for what Mortal Kombat was all about, right? So the game came out in 1992 in the arcades. We had an arcade here at our Yakima Mall. We called it Jolly Joker. It was my home away from home. I spent as much time as I could at that place at the mall. Came out in 1992. I happen to have a photo of myself from 1992. And what do you think this kid knows about Mortal Kombat? I mean, come on now. Look at this face. Look at that cute, super cute face right there. Freshman in high school. Look at that hair. Good Lord. Little tuft of hair growing in the back. I was growing out a mullet. We didn't call it mullets back then, but that was just the typical hairstyle for boys, you know, back in the early 90s. Got the wireframe glasses, got the acne going on. I remember this shirt too, because at 6'5", a lot of shirts at the time didn't wear long. Like it would fit me fine, but it wasn't long enough. And this one was extra long, except for the collar was super stiff. And I have a huge head. I had to like really yank it down and pull it through and all that. But this was the kid that was playing Mortal Kombat. This was the target demographic, if you can believe that. This is not the poster child you would think for Mortal Kombat, but this is who was playing Mortal Kombat back in 1992. Because growing up in the arcades, you had Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Space Invaders even before that, and Frogger, and then all the other games that they had, including Street Fighter 2. And I loved Street Fighter 2. It was a perfect game. It's a game I still find fun today. It's a game I still play today. And then there's Mortal Kombat, kind of the anti-Street Fighter 2, where it has its own thing, its own graphics. You know, it has the captured images of actual actors and all that. The extra blood, of course. The violence with the fatalities. Just had an edginess that Street Fighter 2 didn't have, and I was intrigued. What caught me off guard were the buttons, because there's, instead of having like 3 punch, 3 kick, there's high punch, high kick, low kick, and then a block button. And I've never liked block to be a button, but that was the way it was. Now this is during the time of like the console wars as well. You have Super Nintendo, you have the Sega Genesis, and naturally, as would happen, it's coming out to those game consoles. It's gonna happen. Now, as much as I loved Sega, I did kind of lean more towards Super Nintendo at the time, so I grabbed Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo. I rented it, I took it home, popped it in, looked great, looked awesome, looked just like the arcade as far as I was concerned. But something was missing. There's no splatters of blood. You know, there's no, you know, where's the other stuff that I was seeing in the arcade that's not on this one? Well, Super Nintendo, of course, are gonna make it a little bit more kid-friendly, if you will, you know. But Johnny Cage, he was one of my favorite guys, and does an awesome fatality where you can uppercut them and their head pops off. So let's do that same button combination on the Super Nintendo. It's not the same. It's not the same. And it's what is that? You impale him with a foot? I mean, seriously, that's what we're gonna get with this thing? Okay, well, I don't know how that goes. All right, I mean, the rest of the game, it still plays pretty well. It still plays fairly well for a Mortal Kombat game, but again, a lot of the, let's call it charm, that Mortal Kombat came with, wasn't all that much there on the Super Nintendo. Interesting. I mean, even the fact that it didn't have a whole lot of characters to choose from didn't matter. It had enough because of how awesome this game was. All right, well, from there, I had a friend who was very pro-Genesis, and he was like, oh, you got the wrong one, man. You got to check out the Genesis version. I was like, well, but the Super Nintendo is going to look better, it's going to play better. You know, the controller feels more comfortable to me. He's like, no, trust me, the Genesis version, that's the one to grab. Okay, so let's go grab the Genesis version, and it sounds more gritty. The pixels are more gritty. You know, the color seems a little bit darker, more gritty, I guess, for lack of better terms. And as I was playing it, I think he was right. I mean, this one, for some reason, the Genesis version feels like a better Mortal Kombat game. And again, Johnny Cage, let's try the fatality. Hey, what do you know? It's there. You gotta love that. Awesome, awesome. Well, that's when they told me about the code. ABACABB. You know this already. I didn't realize this until I found out later, and then there it is. With a change of the color, it's gonna give you some more color. So the Genesis version ranks supreme as far as I'm concerned, as far as Mortal Kombat goes. And so happy that this is where we came from. You know, from back in the day to this point in time. What an interesting experience to go through and live through up until this point, and then all points beyond that. And then when you add the ability of the cheat code, that can give you things like first hit kills. Well, that just adds to the fun factor, especially when you have your friends over. You would think it would be great to use this and go through the game, but it's only the first player, because later on when you move up the ranks, then you do the endurance matches, which is like you versus someone, and then as soon as they're done, then someone else comes in. So you basically have to defeat 2 people on your same life bar. It only works for the first one, not the second one. So don't. It'll help you get there at least. How about that? I've never ever been a fan of how you do your maneuvers. You have to, it's like either down back or forward. I like just the idea of the Street Fighter. Of course, that's what I'm used to. So naturally, that's what I like more. But sometimes, especially when it comes to like the fatalities, they don't make any sense at all. They're just like, how would you know that off the top of your head? You can't just button mash and defeat them with scare tactics, hoping that something will happen. You have to be a certain distance away and then hold the button down and then do this button combination with punches and kicks, and then all of a sudden you do something, you really had to study the moves. Fortunately, the first one only has 1 fatality, but then the later on games, there's 2 of them, and friendalities or whatever, you can get the friendship thing. The babalities later on. It got pretty ridiculous. It almost became a parody of itself with the later games, but the first one was fantastic. Loved the second one. And then from there, it to me, it took a little while for it to come back to where it is today, where it's just, pretty awesome. A lot of fond memories playing Mortal Kombat back in its day, mostly with friends. I still preferred Street Fighter 2, and that was kind of their own console wars. There was like Super Nintendo or Genesis. Which one's your favorite? There was also kind of this Fighters Wars. It was like, do you prefer Street Fighter 2 over Mortal Kombat? I was on Camp Street Fighter 2, but I knew several in my school for sure, including a couple of my close friends who were all about Mortal Kombat. They loved the violence. They loved the button combination. They liked the fact that you had to study and learn by writing down things on a 3x5 index card, or sometimes magazines would have just like the 1-page spread of like, here's the character and here's all their moves. We didn't have the internet back then, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, whatever you're gonna do with it, there you go. But so much fun with Mortal Kombat, and the new movie coming out soon. I can't wait. Can't wait for you to see that too, and I'm looking forward to it too. We'll have to talk about that maybe on our Discord or something like that. A couple other videos you can check out in the meantime, and we will see you very soon.